before I start, does anybody has any good news for me? Did anybody place an offer or got an offer accepted?
I am in escrow and I expect to close tomorrow on my first slow flip.
Is that Rob?
Yes,
Well, congratulations. Where are you buying?
in Illinois. It was a wholesaling deal from Joey.
Perfect. Like in our system, I mean, if you're buying from Joey, you get a whole package, right? He's going to fill it for you as well. And usually the numbers he shares with you, they're pretty accurate. So good. Congratulations. So I am going to share my screen and just please keep your mics muted. And today we are going to talk about running rental comps. Can everybody just show a thumbs up that you can see my screen?
I see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so running rental comps. I did another call earlier about running sales comps. So this is about rental comps. So this first slide is actually very similar to the slide that I use for sold comps because the core concept is the same. So rental comps or rental comparables is a way to compare rents in the market compared to a subject property. So there's always going to be a subject property. So if you're looking for rents in the market, and if you don't have a subject property, you won't get any sensible data. So you have to have a subject property, and you have to have enough information on the subject property to make sense of the data. So what we are looking for are 5 items that will ensure that you get sensible rental comps. So you need to know the bedroom bath spec. You need to know the living area in square footage. You need to know the year built. You do need to know when you do run the comps is the distance of the comps from the subject property. Now this one is different, is the condition of the property. So in case for rentals, it's actually even more important because rentals has to do with obviously, property that has recently been renovated. It shows much better. It rents for more. So that's just a basic uh, idea behind that. So same idea for sold comps. The closer they are to the subject property, the more appropriate they are in terms of comps. All right. So again, this is the same template that I had, the first slide that I had for sold. So like I said, the core concept is the same. Now, why do you need to run comps? Rental comps. Because your rental comps will be the basis for your estimate on how much you're going to be able to sell the house on a monthly payment, right? How much you're going to be charging. So coming up with a good estimate is very important because the whole financial analysis that you do in SlowFlips assumes that you're going to have a certain income, and then obviously you'll have certain expenses, and whatever is left is going to be your cash flow. So you're starting with income, right? If that itself is off, and if it's off by even $100, you're going to be in trouble. So in my opinion, this is actually way, way, way more important than anything else that we do in our analysis for SlowFlips. All right. So you don't want to be obviously losing money when you buy a slow flip. And so this is very important. So your accurate rental comp estimate will ensure that you have a slow flip success. If you have an inaccurate rental comp estimate, not only you may actually fail in your actual project, you also will have financial loss because you're going to be subsidizing the slow flip every month, right? You'll have to come up from your pocket to be able to keep it. So you don't want to do that. So here we're talking about the tools that we use, and I'm sure most of you are probably, I don't know where to put this thing. So we have free sources and we have paid sources. Free sources include Zillow, the rental manager. It's called Price My Rental. apartments.com, realtor.com. And then under paid sources, you have Rentometer, you have avail.com. Rentometer is good. It does have some limited free options where you can run some free um, comps, and then afterwards the price kicks in. So I'm going to today, it's going to be exciting because what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare, we're going to take a subject property and then we're going to compare the three top free sources that include Zillow, apartments.com, and realtor.com, run comps on those and see what kind of results we get. All right. What you see here is a screenshot of Zillow right over here. So pretty good, as you can see. And then on this side, this is apartments.com, this one. This is a screenshot from Avail. Actually, this is a service by realtor.com. It's a paid service. So it looks like it's pretty detailed. I didn't actually print out the report, but it looks like it's pretty comprehensive. A lot of people in our community use Rentometer, and it is really good. I've used it a couple of times, but I'm going to show you what I use, and these free sources are actually good enough. All right, so here we go. You can actually do this with a screen on your side open so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm not actually going to do it in real time. I've already done this, but you can do this so you have an idea. Here's the property we're using, 402 Elder Drive in Toledo, Ohio. You can go to Zillow if you like. You can go to realtor.com if you like. And you should be able to pull up and look at the pictures. So this is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,140 square feet. And when you run rental comp on Zillow, you get something like this. What you actually get is you can actually export the PDF and it'll give you quite a lot of details. What I have here is a screenshot of the top portion of the report. And if you scroll down, it actually shows you every single property that it is showing in the spectrum from the lowest to the high end. All right. So what I'm going to do in this call is I'm going to compare the same property, the rental comps that are shown on Zillow compared to apartments.com, compared to realtor.com. I'm not actually going to go through that comp. What I'm going to show you is the process. How are they different? Obviously, mine, I'm biased. I use Zillow because it's just perfect. For my needs, it just not only gives you a really good, concise report, and here's a couple of reasons. Number one, you get an instant rental Zestimate, right? It gives you a number, and then it gives you a range. It shows you at the low end, this property with these specs should be renting for 930, and on the high end, about 1,026. But if you look here, it actually shows you what's in the market. So this is the most important thing because at the end, you are comparing apples with apples, right? So you want to know what other inventory is in the market and what kind of rent are they generating. All right. So what you want to look carefully at the house listed. When you scroll, when you get this report and you scroll down, you will see all the homes that are listed. Then go to each one of those homes. Now, if you run this report, you will find that uh, it will show you all the comps. Some of the comps are clickable. What that means is some of those properties are listed either on the MLS or online, and they're on the market as a rental. So you can actually look at the pictures of those properties, which is very valuable because then you know obviously something that's going to be on the market that does not require repairs, it's going to be much nicer, right? Okay, so now let's keep going. So here at the bottom, each dot right here is that spectrum of rent. So going forward, so this is how Zillow looks like, right? In apartments.com, one of the problem that I had was when you put the address of the property in search, the map actually doesn't even show you your subject property, which is weird. So in this case, I know the property is somewhere around here. It doesn't even show you that. So that's one problem, right? The other problem I found was that it does not give you a estimate. So unlike Zillow had a, a Zestimate, it gave you a range. So in this case, what you're already doing, you are looking at the product. So there are properties listed over here, but then what it simply means is first you gotta find your subject property in the map. And I mean, if you don't live there, you don't know where it is. So you gotta zoom in, find the property, find the address, and then figure out where the property is, and then figure out where the comps are, which kind of is a long way of doing it. But you can still do it. You can make an estimate, but then guess what? You'll have to now manually do it. You have to manually go into each one of these properties, look at the specs, and figure out whether they are comp or they're not a good comp. All right. So that is my problem with apartments.com, that number one, my subject property doesn't show in the map. Number two, it doesn't really give me any range. I have to manually go through the properties. Even though you can see there is a filter here, you can put in 3 bedrooms. That's what I do. I usually do not put anything else. I just put 3 bedrooms, and usually that's good enough. And also, make sure you put homes here. Otherwise, it's going to be showing you comps from apartments. So you don't want that either. Now here's realtor.com. Now realtor.com again has the same problem. It doesn't give you any estimate. It doesn't give you any kind of a report. And in this case, it's even worse. You cannot actually, at least I don't know how to do that, where you can put a address of a property and it runs a rental comp. What you can do is you can put the zip code of the subject property, and then it'll show you all the properties in that zip code, which I don't know. I mean, depending on the zip code you're talking about, maybe there's hundreds and hundreds of properties in that zip code. So again, you're going to be going through, sifting through a whole bunch of properties to come to a conclusion. So it's a little bit hard. You can still do it, but it's a little bit hard. So that's why I don't like this one. So let's go back to the property. Did anybody actually put this property in the search and in either Zillow or realtor.com? And what do they see? Anybody has a comment, or what's their idea of what do you think this would rent for? You can unmute yourself and just say something. No one? All right. Well, let's start with the Zestimate. The Zestimate was that it gave an actual number, right? $978 a month, but it gave a range between 930 to 1,026. All right. And we had to figure out what the rental would be for a property like this. All right. Now, let me tell you, this is one of my property, so I know the numbers. And I learned from my mistakes, and I think this is something that hopefully will be beneficial for you because I can share it with you. And when I saw this number, guess what I did? I opted for the top of the market. I said, well, this is a huge home. It's 2 stories. It's more than 1,100 square feet. And if I get a chance, I'll show you some inside pictures as well. Obviously, it needs repairs, but one of the bathroom was completely finished. It was in very, very nice condition. So I opted for the high end. So I rented this first time for 1,055 a month to the first tenant. And sure enough, it ended up being stressful for them because it was not affordable. And so I had to evict them. And so now I have another tenant in there paying 900. So do you see how, like, if you price it at the higher end, you actually just, in my opinion, you build a little stress where, you could have a tenant who just wanted the home, got in, but they really can't afford it. So what I've learned from this is I would rather be very, very conservative in my idea of what that number is, right? So if you look this yellow section right here, which is to the left of the median, and which is what they're recommending, 978. Remember, this rental estimate is not meant for slow flip. It's meant for a normal home, right? Which means a home that is immediately habitable, does not require any kind of major repairs. So our home is you have to make a judgment call. Well, is it habitable? How much work does it need? And a normal person who wants to rent it is not going to look at this home anyway. So you're going to have to make some judgment call on that, right? But either way, as you can see, the lowest point here for a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, according to Zillow, was $800, right? And I did actually look at some of those homes. If you are looking at it, you can look at those homes. They are quite comparable to this property. So my takeaway from this, number one biggest takeaway is this: keep your rental comp as conservative as possible. If you're using Zillow Rental Manager, then use this section right here to the left of it and make a judgment call based on that. What could be your most conservative number that you can come up with based on the condition of your subject property? What if you have a generally nice property, just needs update and all that? Okay, so then maybe you don't need to be all the way towards the end, right? In this case, $800, you can say, okay, maybe this is much better. I can, shoot for $900 or so. So my thing was, I was looking at this number, and now I usually don't. I like to keep it as conservative as possible. So that's one takeaway. Number two, what is a break-even point for your property? If you don't know your money math and you're doing your rental comms, it's not going to benefit you because you're not really sure what you're doing, right? So in this case, like I mentioned before, in past as well, all my properties are financed by my private lenders. So I have a loan on it. So it's $667.33. The property tax for this property is $52 a month. The insurance is $42 a month. And like I said, now it rents for $900 a month. So my net cash flow is $138.67 a month. Now, what if I got real excited, I bought this property, and my rental comps showed that the median was somewhere around 850 or something like that. And then remember, if we were to use a conservative number, our numbers came around 750, 760, something like that. Well, look at this. The break even on this property is 762. So if this property is not even making that, you're going to lose money. Now, I understand many of you may be self-funding your first deal, but at least it's my idea that I want you to think of going into SlowFlips as a business, thinking that you are going to, because you're not going to be funding all your SlowFlips. At some point, you're going to run out of funds and you will need a private lender. So it's a really good idea to go into this having done your money math and knowing that I need to make sure that I have a net cash flow on this. Okay. All right. So that's basically it. And now I can answer any questions that you might have.
Hey, Amir, this is Rick. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I followed you on the video, but I'm trying to find where you find this because I'm on the Zillow Rental Manager site.
Uh-huh.
Do we need to get signed in as a member first before we can utilize this?
So yes, you do need to have an account. So let's see. When I log into Zillow, can you see my screen? Can you see Zillow?
I can. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So you see I'm logged in. And so if you have an account, I mean, the account is free. When you're logged in, you can do all sorts of things. So for me, when I go to my manage rentals and Zillow Rental Manager, that's when I can go ahead and put in a property and run searches.
Okay.
Price my rental is where you need to go, and this is where you need to put the address. So what was the address? 405? I forgot.
402 Elder Drive.
402. Gosh, I forgot my own Elder Drive. There you go. So there's your report right there, right? And so what I was talking about, which I couldn't show in my slideshow, was this section right here, right? So it shows you your median right in the center. This is what they're recommending. And if you go to the left, these are all the properties. And this 800 is the lowest one. But if you look at this, even the specs are different. It's not even a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bedroom. And actually I clicked on it, or I think I looked it up, and it's some kind of an apartment. It's not like it's like a room within a house or something like that. So this is not really a good comp. But this one it is actually a home. It's 3-bedroom, 1 bath. It does look like it's an older home. So as you can see, when you have a lot of these in the neighborhood, you have to be very careful, because yes, it's showing you this very fantastic number in the median, in the middle, but look at all the other homes that are in the neighborhood, how far they are, what their specs are. But as you can see, a lot of these are 2-bedroom. So they're not a good comp in that sense. So bedrooms is a very important part of that. But anyway, you got it right. You just have to set up an account, and once you have an account, yeah, it'll allow you to do all of these things.
I did set up an account already, Amir.
Okay.
Can you show me the path again, because it's not taking me the same.
Okay, sure. So
It looks different than the
it
path
is,
you've got.
yeah. So you go to Zillow. First, you go to Zillow, right? So Zillow, this is not where you'll be able to do it. So you will then hover over manage rentals, right? And you can go directly to price my rental.
Oh, there you go. Yep, that's why.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden. You can save this URL, and that way, you don't have to constantly jump.
Great. Okay. Yep. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Amir, so with my tenant occupied purchase, what's does Scott offer some kind of template or boilerplate letter to send to them? And like, I assume once I close, then I would reach out to them and negotiate my terms. I was just like looking for some overall best management practices from approach and execution for getting the tenant to sign.
So you're buying a property with tenants in it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you haven't closed on it yet, right?
Yeah. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Do you have a lease?
Negative. Do not.
Okay. So that's one thing you need. You need a lease. You need to look at the lease. Number two, there's something called a tenant estoppel. Do you have that? It's a tenant estoppel certificate. You need.
Okay. No, I don't.
Okay, so let me tell you what those two are. I actually went through this process, so I can tell you. And I'll tell you the worst case scenario. And I don't want to scare you, but these things could happen. So let me put some scenarios for you. Number one, you're taking over a property with the tenant in it, and if you don't know whether a lease exists, or there is a lease which you don't have access to, you don't know what terms are, you don't know if the lease is active, you don't know how long they can be there legally. So
Yeah.
that is your biggest concern right now is, are they on a month to month? That will tell you if that's what the lease says. Then legally you can actually give them a 30-day notice and get rid of them. Number two, this is not as important, but you need to know the stopple actually tells you from the seller and the tenant's perspective, what is the status of the account? Did they pay the last month's rent? When do they pay the rent? And what is the status of it? Is there a deposit or not? So as of that closing date, it's like an accounting of that. And they have to provide you with that. But in your case, I think the most important thing is you have to know about a lease. Because what if, worst case scenario, there is a lease and it's a year's lease? And after the closing, you'll find out these things that the tenant says, oh yeah, I have a year's lease. You can't evict me. What are you going to do then? So you need to know before then.
What I've been led to believe thus far is that no lease exists and they are current.
Yeah, so this is your call on this. Joey does so much volume, and he does it so often that he doesn't care about these things because these are easy, it's
Right.
minor for him. I am just careful, so I just closed on a property, and that's exactly what was going on. So I had to have it certified by both the seller and the tenant saying what the terms are, and I have it
Okay.
in writing, and it's certified. So if I have to evict him, I have a certified document showing that the tenant signed and the seller signed that they are on a month to month and they have paid the last month's rent. So I was prorated at closing. So for you, the most important thing you need to know is you need some kind of a notarized document showing that what are the terms of the lease. Is it month to month or is it whatever it is? And if there's
Got
no
it.
lease, if there is no lease, that estoppel certificate will tell you that it will mention that the tenant is on a month-to-month basis. So even though they're not talking about a lease, but they're mentioning that it's a month-to-month basis. Because remember, everybody says things. If nothing is in writing, as soon as the closing happens, nobody will be available on the phone to talk to you. So I'm just saying, as a precaution, especially if this is a first deal for you, I'd be just a little bit careful on this. Ask a whole bunch of questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions and being absolutely certain about things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Somebody had
Yes,
raised their
yes,
hand.
Amir.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm curious to know if you are screening your tenants, and if so, how?
I am not. I'm using the same system that Scott teaches, which is the first person who can come up with the down payment and basically accepts our terms and condition, I would sell to them. And the logic is simple. Is the logic is if you don't do that, then you have to have criteria. And if you have criteria, then you have to be very careful that you apply it evenly for everyone. Otherwise, somebody would say, well, you didn't sell to me because I am whatever, right? And so that's one thing. The number two thing is, which I also believe, and which Scott is the basis of his whole course, is that's how he started, was he didn't have any money and nobody would bet on him. The banks wouldn't loan him any money. Nobody would, no lending institution would work with him. But an investor said, no, you know what? As long as you can come up with a down payment, I'll give you a chance. So that's what I do. But again, if you're not comfortable with that, go with what you're comfortable with first. Holly?
Yeah, I was wondering about how long do unfilled houses in the area, like saying St. Louis, Illinois, tend to fill? Because I know some areas fill very quickly, but I was told by other group members that some houses can take a month or two to fill.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when would you think is reasonable to like reduce the price of a house, and like how patient should I be, I guess?
So do you have a house right now? Do you have a situation?
I do. I have a house in St. Louis, and I had Josh give me the numbers. It's with several fillers, and I also have it on Facebook. So I also respond, and if I get interested buyers, then I just kind of kick them over to Josh because I don't know what I'm doing. But um, it's been it's been almost 2 months. And like, I was following along with your estimate right now, and it's in a good range for other comparable properties. So, but it's also a one bed, one bath, which doesn't move as easily. So maybe
Yes.
good idea to drop the price. I'm
That's
thinking.
one thing, yeah. But so yeah, so here's what because I have one property right now that has been that is just not filling, and we have nobody, including Joey's team, have been able to figure out what is the cause. And sometimes there is something, and I think Scott brought it up during one of the meetings, that he said, it's just a matter of you being creative and trying to figure out what that one problem, and it could be something very small, and just correcting that. But yeah, 2 months, I would check with Josh and I would just drop it by $50 at a time and test it and see what it is. Sometimes it's a matter of that. Sometimes there is a change in the market. Remember when 6, 7 months ago, when everybody was getting their tax refunds, there was a surge in properties were selling so fast. So sometimes there is something going on in the market or in the economy that affects it, and so we don't know that. So it's a complex thing, but honestly, like Scott says, and I really believe that there will be someone, this property will sell to someone.
Yeah, it's gotten four almost, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely not necessarily super unwanted. Like no one's put any offers on it. but I'm also just worried about how long it's going to sit empty because it was rented until March and then I bought it in almost July. And so it's been empty a long time. Should houses sit empty for too long, or should you switch to like a rental strategy or?
Yes, so that's something you could do also. But here's another thing. I don't know if you're doing this or not. Are you getting grass cut on it on a regular basis?
Yes, I do have
Okay,
a grass guy. He's great. He grew up in the
good.
neighborhood. He goes by and checks on it and he mows the lawn. And if he
That's
sees
good.
anything off, he sends me pictures. He's great.
That's perfect
If I
because you
get
do
his
want
name, I'll
that.
know.
That could be one of the reasons why, somebody, goes and doesn't like it because it looks abandoned or stuff like that. A lot of times it's the neighborhood. And you can't do
Yeah.
anything about it, unfortunately. And we are buying in all sorts of neighborhoods. Honestly, somebody asked me last time about, oh, it's a dangerous neighborhood. There's a lot of crime. Well, guess what? Most of the properties where these are located, they're not going to be the most safe. But then within those safe areas, there's an area that's really, really bad. And if your property happens to be within that, neighborhood, it's just your luck. So you won't know until somebody local tells you, look, this is, but again, there might be a number where somebody would be willing to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I would talk to Joey and his team and ask him, hey, do you think it's time for us to drop another $50 and see what it is? Their teams are on the ground and they have a good pulse of what's going on, and they'll give you a good input on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. Any other questions, guys?
I was wondering if you ever bought houses under 30, like over 30K, because I know you follow Scott's pretty closely, but I see other people who go above that. How does that work?
Yeah, no, I think it works. The way Scott explains it, if you buy a home that, rents for, I don't know, $1,200, $1,300, then you can afford 35K, which is 775 a month or something. So you can make numbers work. I'm very systematic. I just want to be so good in what I do. Then I will then have another formula, then I would like to do that. So I don't like to be all over the place. I like to just focus on one thing, and I'm just trying to, and even with that, I'm telling you, like I said, one of my property has been vacant for a while. But just this week I got somebody who's interested, and guess what? The person who's interested is so unique. They said that my house was the only one, she's on a wheelchair, that it's easy for her to access the home. All the homes she saw in the neighborhood, none of them did. And I thought that was so weird. And for some reason, it has been vacant for so long. So that's why I'm saying just be patient. Sometimes a matter of tweaking the numbers. So it'll be good. All right, guys. If nobody has any more questions, then like I said, I'll have the recording of this with the.
Actually,
Yes, go ahead, please.
I have a quick question,
Yeah.
just relevant to this conversation. On the average, how long does it typically take for you to have a house filled? Just to give us an idea of what kind of is normal and what's a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, the fastest I've heard Joey filled was like in 30 minutes. That doesn't happen often, but on an average, it could take a few weeks, it could take a month. So a month is nothing wrong with a month. It takes that much time to get the advertising running, get people come in and look at it. So, few weeks to a month is an average. Now, when you go beyond 3, 4 months, then yeah, something needs to be tweaked.
Thank you.
You're welcome, but thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you guys next week.